when you talk about hope and what's going on, it's a challenging time for small business. We lost 2/3 of our revenue like that, gone. And so trying to get that back, and when you think about a small business that generally is running maybe a 10 to 20% profit margin, 2/3 is a killer. The two biggest fixed costs for most businesses is people and property. And that's exactly what the PPP focused on. So for us, it was a lifesaver. It was an absolute game changer. We went from trying to figure out how we were going to limit our cash burn every single day to stay alive as long as we could, with as many people as we could, to finally bring them back. And when you have to furlough someone, I'm telling you, it is one of the worst things you can do, because you're talking about family. These are people, these are their wives, their husbands, their children. They're a part of your ethos.
Joe Shamus is a small business owner. Joe, with his co-founder Brian Stortz, are two veteran special operators in the military who started Flags of Valor in 2015. It's a veteran-owned, veteran-run manufacturing company located not too far from here in Virginia. Flags of Valor builds wooden flags, among other products. They've employed over their years 65 veterans and have raised over $1 million for veteran charities. Flags of Valor is also proud to have 97,000 hours of American manufacturing labor under their belt. It's a lot of hours. At the start of this crisis, Joe had to furlough 4 of his employees, in addition to imposing a 50% pay cut. His employees were, of course, disappointed, but they were, quote, in his words, all in the fight against the coronavirus. Everything changed for Joe and his furloughed employees when he applied for the PPP loan. Just this week, he was approved for that PPP loan that enabled Flags of Valor to rehire its furloughed employees and to boost paychecks back to pre-coronavirus levels. PPP was a huge lifeline for us, Joe told me. He called it a lifesaver. This is a perfect example of why President Trump fought for additional PPP funding and will continue to fight for small businesses and American heroes like Joe. Joe, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for all the great work you've done for our veterans and being a veteran yourself. I wanted to see if you'd take to the podium for a minute or two and share your message of hope with the American people.
I'd love to. Thank you, Kaylee, and thank you, President Trump, for allowing me to be here today. I've got a couple props. This is examples of one of our products that we make, and here's another one. This one my son, Gabriel, made. And when you talk about hope and what's going on, it's a challenging time for small business. We lost 2/3 of our revenue like that, gone. And so trying to get that back, and when you think about a small business that generally is running maybe a 10 to 20% profit margin, 2/3 is a killer. And so when you think about the Paycheck Protection Program, the two biggest fixed costs for most businesses is people and property. And that's exactly what the PPP focused on. So for us, it was a lifesaver. It was an absolute game changer. We went from trying to figure out how we were going to limit our cash burn every single day to stay alive as long as we could, with as many people as we could, to finally bring them back. And when you have to furlough someone, I'm telling you, it is one of the worst things you can do, because you're talking about family. These are people, these are their wives, their husbands, their children. They're a part of your ethos. And so what we've experienced has been challenging, sure, but when there hasn't been all the revenue, there's been people helping other people. And the way we approached it was, how can we be better? How can we exit COVID-19 a better version of ourselves? How can we innovate? And so we saw people like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the SBA step in. We saw our partners at Under Armour step in. We saw innovation. You see companies making respirator masks. You see all kinds of stuff going on. And we created the Flag Build Kit, because families were at home with their kids. They didn't know what to do with their children. And we believe this is our nation's family crest. So what better thing than allow families to build American flags together and talk about that and what it means. And then we started a twice-a-day daily pledge at 9 a.m. in the morning on the East Coast and again at 9 a.m. on the West Coast. Every day we've got thousands of kids and their families joining us to say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's phenomenal. And all that's happening by people coming together, by people thinking and innovating. And I can't tell you enough how grateful we are to the U.S. government, the bipartisanship that took place to pass the Paycheck Protection Program. It was all hands on deck. It wasn't like there was no script for this. And they built the parachute on the way down. And when you think about it, you want to talk about the Lakers got it or somebody else got it. Think about the millions of businesses that are being benefited by this. And it's, I think, 47% of U.S. private sector employees are in small businesses. They work for small businesses. And so all the big businesses we love, they started as small businesses. And I hope to be a big business someday, but for now, I'm happy to be alive. I'm thankful for your support, and thank you, Kaylee, for letting me be here. So join us at flagsofvalor.com. Thank you.
Joe, if you want to take a seat with the reporters, you can ask me some questions. But
I'm happy right now.
Joe, it's veterans like you that make our country great. It's small business owners like you that are going to bring this country back, and employees like the one we heard from last week, Michael Hoyt, the employee of Biddy and Bo's Coffee, that keep this country going. So thank you so much for the example you set, and to the hardworking business owners across the country, and to the employees across this country who are working during this time. So thank you, Joe. Thank you for your service. As I said, PPP has changed lives across this country, and as President Trump has said, the American people are warriors, and we will fight together to defeat the invisible enemy. And with that, I'll take questions.